So I just discovered a massive mistake I'd made living here off grid. And I'm going to get into that in a bit. But I thought I'd bring you inside and show you some stuff here. I can't show you the whole place because anytime I do, somebody will say, oh, you need to clean that up or you need to do that. I mean, we got laundry hanging, and it's not even really hanging. When we first built the house, I asked the audience, should I allow Carolyn to hang the clothes up on the wall instead of in the little closet we got? And the majority of the people said, hey, we should hang the clothes up on the wall. Well, now anytime I show the wall, it's like, hey, clean that up. That's messy. Well, it's where she wants it. So I just don't show it anymore because, I mean, the audience can be, well, the comment section can be just absolutely trash. But this is the kitchen area is kind of, it's kind of, I don't know. There's really no area in the tiny house. Of course, the stove and everything is outside. Now we have a refrigerator here. This is the refrigerator that we've used all along. We had this in the camper, so we bought this after the pop-up camper burned down, and then we brought it up here. It ran off a modified sine wave inverter for the last, I don't know, what, 5 years? 4 years? I don't know how long it's been. I think we've been here 3 years. The other day, it stopped working. Now, I've made a video about this, but hang in there. This is important. But I got to refresh some people who didn't watch the video. So that was the day that we just bought 100 pounds of meat, 80 pounds of meat. Carolyn's grinding it up, making sausages, and you know, just what she does, she packages it up into little bitty packages like this. She packages it up in a meal size fashion. This held 30 days worth of meat. Every 30 days we'd have to go shopping. Well, when we got back home, we got this all plugged in. The next day, I thought, you know, I'm gonna plug this in and see if it works or, you know, if anything happened to it. And it started right up. So the refrigerator is still working. I say this because modified sine wave should have burned it up years ago. Modified sine wave, the inverter, I know somebody's going to ask me what the inverter is. An inverter is, it takes DC electricity, so from our solar panels and the batteries, and turns it into AC, so I can run appliances like you do in your house. Our inverter's down in the camper. Modified sine wave does not run 60 hertz. It's very messy, very dirty. And so it heats up motors. And so your refrigerator, being a motor, heats up more than it should. So it should go out, but it hasn't. Now we have a refrigerator that works that we have nothing to do with. So Carolyn said, hey, let's make it into some sort of storage area. Never waste space. We were gonna get rid of it, but since it still works, why get rid of it? We may want it one day. Well, now we have the freezer, but we don't have a refrigerator. In the past, we've considered buying a freezer, but we just never did because that would mean I'd need about another 1,000 watts of solar panels, another several batteries, probably 7 batteries, another inverter or a bigger inverter. We would need another charge controller because our charge controller is already maxed out. Charge controller is what controls the solar panel's energy. So when your batteries get charged up, the charge controller shuts off. I mean, that is real basic on how it works. Actually, back in the olden days, that's exactly how they worked. It was either on or off. Well, today's charge controllers are actually like AI computers. And that would probably be another $1,000 investment, maybe even a little more than that. And so when people were telling me, you need to get a freezer, you need to get a freezer, I didn't see the cost savings in that. Because now you have to get a freezer, $200, and another $1,000 worth of electricity just for one appliance. So now you're spending $1,200 for a freezer. I couldn't justify that in my head. So when the refrigerator went out, we had no choice. We had to do something. So we started to head to Walmart, and Carolyn said, you know what? I don't want another refrigerator. I want a freezer. What do you mean you want a freezer? What are we gonna do with a refrigerator? We gotta have a refrigerator. And she says, no, anything we need to refrigerate, we'll put in a cooler and leave it outside. Well, since then, we've had some freezing temperatures and the eggs froze. And I know people will say, well, you can still use the eggs. Well, you can, but they're no good. I mean, they taste terrible. Well, no, that's not true. You can't fry them. You won't get the runny yolks. We tried it the other day. We decided, well, we don't really need to refrigerate the eggs since they're farm fresh eggs. We don't wash the eggs. So you get that plume, I think, bloom or whatever you want to call it, on the eggs. That's a little coating that keeps them fresh for 30 days. We actually got rid of the refrigerator pretty much. I mean, the only thing we have now is cheese. So I talk about a carnivorous diet regularly. This is all we eat is meat-based products. Now somebody will say, don't you drink milk? Nah, we don't drink a lot of milk. Oh, you got to have vitamin D. We've looked into all that. We get vitamin D from the meat. But milk, if we need it for something, we can use powdered milk, or we can can milk, like pressure canning, like we do with all our chicken and everything. We've canned all this. So in the past, that's what we would do with our excess meat, is we'd can it. And we've also found that this is much cheaper, this chicken, to give to the cat. Now I know a lot of people will say, I don't care about cats. Well, the cat has provided us a lot of comfort since she showed up. I don't know, we have nothing to spoil anymore. Our kids are grown, so we spoil a cat. As a matter of fact, I just made an appointment so she can get her shots and get spaded. Earliest that they could get us in was in March 10th. So here it is, mid-January, so we got 2 months to wait. We're hoping she doesn't go into heat in February. I suspect that's when she will, but we'll see. We canned all our food. As a matter of fact, the day the refrigerator went out, we had 80 pounds. Now I told you we could only get 30 pounds of meat in the fridge. So we were gonna have to can, what, 50 pounds of meat? So that was gonna be a couple day process. Fortunately, it was pretty cold outside, and we could leave the meat outside while I got it all canned up. But it was gonna be a few days canning a lot of food. Since then, we've bought a pure sine wave inverter. The pure sine wave inverter, I showed it to you the other day, makes me feel more comfortable. It just makes me feel like we're not gonna burn out our motors and all this stuff. It's clean energy. And for some reason in my mind, that was always a stressing point. Now, the reason I bring up the carnivorous diet is this just makes off-grid living that much more simple. I've talked about carnivorous diet many times. I am a healthier person since eating just meat-based products. So we're getting healthier. People keep talking about, well, what are you gonna do when you're old and can't do all this stuff anymore? Well, I'm hoping the carnivorous lifestyle will keep me healthy enough that I can do these things. But it's just not that hard to live this way. And it's getting easier all the time. I told you, we would have to can our food, and that's an all-day process. We have 2 canners that we can get going at the same time. So that's 20 jars of food that we can can in one setting. Now, if you're doing something like pork, where you're doing a cold pack, or a raw pack is what some people will call it, then you could probably do about 40 jars a day. But if you happen to do chicken where you're cooking it, so you can debone it, and I know people say, oh, you can cook chicken with the bones on. I know that, but we don't want to. I start about 4:30 in the morning cooking the chicken, and then by 8 or 9 o'clock, I'm starting to can. Well, now we come home, we package up the meat, we can put it in the freezer. It's done. So over time, we have learned how to simplify our lives even more than what it was before. Living in this little tiny house has taught us how to maximize all our stuff. People get this idea that you have to work really hard all the time when you're living off grid. And it's just not true. The longer we live here, the less I have to do on a daily basis. My day kind of goes like this. I get up about 5 o'clock in the morning. I've been getting up at 4:30 for some reason. The cat is excited to see me, so we give her some chicken. And then I go down and I open up the coop for the chickens so they can come out whenever they want. And then I might start the generator depending on if it's going to be cloudier that day or not. And then I come back up here and I play a game for an hour or two, a computer game. I really don't do much. Carolyn gets up 6:30, 7 o'clock. She likes to stay busy, so she's always doing something. She's doing stuff that she just doesn't have to do. She's grinding up cornmeal or stuff, and she just doesn't have to do that, but she does. So getting back to the freezer, one of the things that I've noticed about it is it actually uses fewer amps to run than a refrigerator. The refrigerator was running about 10 to 11 amps, where the freezer is only running about 9 amps. So when I first bought it and it was running, I looked at the wattage, not the amps at that time, which doesn't matter. I'm not going to get into that. It's basically the same. So at the time when I started it up, it was running more amps than the refrigerator was, or more watts. The refrigerator, in watts terms, it was running about 100 watts. The freezer was running about 110 to 120 watts, so it was a little bit more. But once everything got frozen, the wattage dropped when it started up. It went back down to about 90 watts. I just went down and checked it just a little bit ago. It's changed since I got the new inverter. On the old inverter, everything was in watts. I mean, it's no big deal. It's volts times amps equals watts. So we know what the volts are, 110 volts. This is running on the new inverter, 9 amps. Now, the way I do that is I can check the charge controller. Charge controller tells me how much electricity is being let in to run this. Right now, the batteries are charged. It's a nice sunny day. The batteries got charged. So this starts up. I'm running 9 amps. Now, I got my little tablet on. That may have some amperage to it, not much. One of the things I was thinking about, and I'll report on this later after I figured it all out. When we would buy meat and put it in the fridge was empty. The freezer, this upper portion, it was empty. So I would have to start the generator at night to run the refrigerator because there wasn't enough battery to run it all night long. Normally the refrigerator kicks on, shuts off, kicks on, shuts off. Well, when you buy the meat, it just kicks on, stays on. So I would have to run the generator. I always tried to buy meat on a sunny day, and you go early, but I'm thinking that maybe the freezer will shut off before we go to bed. I mean, because it already had half the thing full. Today, I realized my biggest mistake. I should have bought this as soon as we become carnivores. This would have been a huge saver. Carolyn found a sale today on hamburger. $8 for 5 pounds of meat. You get 3 rolls of it. So 15 pounds each. 15 pounds. Every 5 pounds was $8. So going to town cost us a lot of money. It's 30 miles out there, 30 miles back, a lot of gas. So it's not always beneficial for us to run out there just to pick up hamburger. Even though there was a sale on hamburger, we would have to can it, but then you still want to buy more stuff to make the trip worthwhile. That means you're canning the next day. I mean, of course, you wouldn't have enough room in this little freezer to go out there and do it. It just would not have been cost effective at all. Well, yesterday or last night, Carolyn discovered an ad at Save-A-Lot for this on sale hamburger. So this morning she got up, she says, hey, there's a sale on hamburger, but I don't know if it's worth our while to go out there. Well, when we bought the freezer, it was only half full. So I said, well, let's go out there and fill up the freezer. So we went out there and got our 3 rolls. That's the most you could buy, was the 3 rolls of hamburger. And then we bought everything out. We left a few packages for the next people to come through. So if you'll click this up next box, take the video that I made yesterday. So I hope I can inspire you to minimize your life. Become a carnivore so you can live your dreams. Thanks for watching.